Okay guys, I just want to go over a high jump real quick, and it's just some of the most important things with high jump. With high jump, we want to be focusing on really just like our approach. There should be no jumping over the bar the first day of high jump. The first day of high jump, you can do the little scissor kick thing or whatever. I don't typically like to teach that because it'll start to teach them bad habits necessarily. So I got a high jump pit, it's all covered up, so we're not going to be obviously doing a whole lot with that. So basically with high jump, I'll start them like, so I guess our typical approach for high jumpers when they're first starting out is you want to get to about 8 or so steps. 8 to 10 is what I teach my high jumpers, but to get there, I typically like to start about 5 steps. So you have, with high jump, you basically have the pit over here. I'm gonna kind of walk in. You wanna just march it with your athletes, or you just wanna march it if you're just doing this. So we just wanna march in, so you're just gonna teach march, and we wanna start teaching the curve. So we're gonna teach them we wanna teach them the whole 8 steps first, is kind of what I typically do. So I like to teach that 8 steps first, but it's all marching. So it's literally just like teach them what foot to start on so we can time it. You wanna be, when you're at the mat or the pit, you also wanna find out what foot you'd like to jump off. That'll determine your side of the mat you're gonna be approaching from. So either this side or the other side. So with high jump, basically, let's say I'm trying to jump off this foot, right? So you're gonna just count it out, right? So it's gonna be, I wanna jump off this foot, so we're gonna count out 8 steps backwards from this foot. So it's figure out what foot we'd start with back. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the foot I have to land on first. So you wanna keep that foot forward if you're gonna take 8 steps. So it'd be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into the mat. And the really important thing with high jump is making sure that we're getting really good turnover going in that curve. So there's a curve aspect. So we run straight first for about 4 steps. We typically like to march that through. So let's start off. Let me just start back here. It's gonna march that out. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is where I teach most of my athletes to start the curve. Cross a little bit. Sometimes I teach the cross, almost like cross their feet a little bit to start it, so they're not stepping out. Because if you step out, it's gonna kill our momentum. High jump's all about momentum. So we wanna start our coming in, and then we start our curve 1, 2, and it should be a nice smooth curve into the mat. And we wanna aim our foot in between the 2 corners of the opposite side of the mat. So that's typically what I will start teaching, and just kind of getting those ideas in their head. So 90% of the high jump, I've heard this 1,000 times and I do believe it, is all in the approach. So you just gotta be, creating that approach will create all of the momentum and the rotations that you're gonna need to get over the bar and to do the high jump correctly. So like the Fosbury flop, right? So teaching, I guess, the jump first is probably never the best idea. I always like to teach the approach, and then we can start the bar really low, and then we can start teaching them how to jump after that. So just like even the first day, just working on that approach. And then we gotta figure out how far back, so how far we wanna come off to the side of the pit, and how far back we wanna come from the pit. So typically with girls, I'll start anywhere from like 8 to 9 feet away from the standard. So the standard being the thing that comes up that holds, that we don't have up right now, that holds the bar on. So you measure from that center of the standard back 8 to 9 feet. And then I'm gonna teach them that when they hit the standard, that's when they need to be trying to jump initially. Eventually, we're gonna be at the point where we try to jump so that we come over the lowest part of the bar, because it sags just a little bit. So you wanna come over that part. That's gonna be the exact measurement of what the bar is at. But before that, we just wanna just teach them to kind of just take off the standards. If you're doing the curve right, then by the time they actually jump, they're gonna be either middle of the bar, or they're even gonna be on the other side of the bar by then, depending on how they jump. But yeah, for girls, 8 to 9 feet wide. For guys, we're probably looking at 9 to 10 feet to start. And then we're gonna look at girls probably going anywhere from like, it really depends, they could be doing a 5-step approach first, but if I try to start them with the 8 steps, see if they can pick it up. If not, then we'll go back to the 5 and learn that really quick and then move them back. So I start them out, probably about 35 to, I would say maybe 32 to 40 feet. This is the hard one. You kind of have them start at the standard. They're gonna run the curve first, and then they're gonna run straight out, and you're gonna count their steps, and by the time they hit their 8th step, that's kind of be kind of where they start. And then you just kind of measure that quick to make sure it's the width's right, but then how far back they go. Typically they have to do a run out to figure that out. So I'll demonstrate that again in the next video a couple days from now, because we'll probably try to do some high jump then. But that's kind of like how you gauge it for guys. I don't know if I said this, but we're looking at, it could be 35 feet for some guys, but typically I find that like if they're pretty athletic, we're looking at closer to 40 feet, maybe even 41, 42, 43, anywhere within that range. My top high jumper who just got second state is, I mean, I think he's 40 to 43 feet back from the pit. So he's not even that far back, but he's not a speedy runner, so he doesn't make a whole lot of ground on that. So it really depends on how fast of a runner they are and how athletic they are. Just practicing that, just running, and then not even jumping on the pit yet. You could do the scissor, like basically where you jump and then you just like run on the pit, but we don't want to be jumping over backwards on the pit yet. It's too much to do right now. So that's high jump for you guys, and that's kind of my starting point for high jump.